All right, we're live, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, yeah, you're online already. Welcome back to the podcast of Awesomeness. This is episode number 7 with your host, Haider Naqvi. It's actually episode number 7, which is kind of ironic. It's my lucky number. And on my lucky number 7, we have probably the best guest we have on the show. I mean, we had good guests before, but this is probably bypassing everything that we have ever had on the show. We got to, if you didn't know, we had Low Rider, we had Sammy Guevara from AEW. Before that, didn't really go all that much well technical wise, so we have to still upload that for our fans. But the for the fans, you're in for a treat today, guys. So the guy we have today, he just turned 25. He's been wrestling for over 8 years, and he's working with WXW, which is West Side Extreme Wrestling, and it's probably one of the best promotions we have in Germany working in wrestling. So we have today with us, we have the Rotation. How are you, man?
Hey, how are you? I'm totally fine. Thank you for the nice announcement. I'm very honored and I appreciate that. I'm totally fine.
Hmm.
I mean, quarantine life, nothing's going on, but I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, thank you for giving us your valuable time. I know it's been really crazy out there with everything, with all the quarantine and the coronavirus and everything. So we'll start with that, if you don't mind. How about you tell us a little bit about how's your schedule been ever since the place is locked down? Are you go? I'm sure you're working out and everything, but how has this affected your the shows and everything? I'm sure it has impacted a lot, right?
Yeah, totally, completely. Like in Germany and in general in Europe, or I mean worldwide, shows are being canceled.
Mm-hmm.
I know that in
Mm-hmm.
Germany so far the government stated that shows have to be canceled until the end of August. So for us, that means that every event we would have to have
Mm-hmm.
from now from April till August. We had to postpone all these events, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm now sitting right here on my couch and doing the podcast. Like I have lots of free time now because I'm
Mm-hmm.
working a full-time professional wrestler. That means I have nothing to do besides working
Mm-hmm.
out during the day at the moment. I did watch Tiger King already on Netflix,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah. So for us, the situation is horrible money-wise because there's no income. There's no chance we can work
Mm-hmm.
or doing anything else
Right.
specifically. We can work in our WXW Academy. This is our place where we
Mm-hmm.
educate our new students, the WXW Wrestling Academy. It's also closed, so right now nothing is going on. And I mean, for every artist, it's a horrible
Mm-hmm.
situation to be in because we have no chance to make money or show our crafts. But yeah,
Okay.
that's a weird thing going on at the moment.
It's actually very unfortunate because I don't think I remember, as far as I'm alive, that I ever seen um, WrestleMania in empty arena. That was bizarre. One of the few things that I never dreamt that I will see. Having people wrestling in front of nobody. Like there was just empty chairs.
Yeah,
So what is your take on that? Having WrestleMania without any audience, because audience is the core part of wrestling. If you don't have any audience, you don't have wrestling all that much. So what is your take on that?
definitely. I think wrestling should always work with an audience. I mean, hats off
Mhm.
for AEW and WWE for providing us entertainment during these times.
Mhm.
Because it's very difficult to bring the product we deliver without a crowd
Mhm.
because wrestling is about emotions and the crowd, the live audience brings
Mhm.
like the
Mhm.
most important factor to a wrestling show. So for us, that
Right.
means in WXW we can provide shows because
Mhm.
we do have our network WXW now, but
Mhm.
I mean we are not in the financial situation like WWE or AEW where we can run shows without audience. Moreover, that in Germany everything is cancelled and we don't have even the chance to run a show like this.
Mhm.
So we had our big WXW 16 Karat Gold 2020 this year, where I was taking part of, and
Yeah.
literally 1 week after this, the government has cancelled everything. Like people had issues with traveling back home. People had to
Mhm.
stay for a bit longer here in Germany and then quarantine themselves until or when they
Mhm.
arrived at home. So yeah,
Mhm.
we kind of dodged a big bullet there. But yeah, at the moment, wrestling is just weird. So, but we have
Yeah.
to appreciate WWE and AW for providing
Mm.
us with a product. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the best you can do. Otherwise,
Right.
even wrestling would stay still, like kind of the
Yeah.
world is doing.
Yeah, even with our company, with REW, we have been around for about 9 to 10 years now. But it's always like we did some stuff here, we did some stuff there, never too much concrete in place. But recently, about a few months ago, we built a foundation that we think that's now going to stick. We also had worked in so many different places. In just one city, we never went out of the city. It's basically the biggest city of Pakistan and the second biggest city in Asia next to
Karachi,
Beijing.
Karachi,
Yeah,
is it
Karachi.
Karachi? Okay, and
Yes,
then
Karachi.
Lahore, right?
Yeah, so
As you
it's
may see, because of
Karachi. Yeah,
the card, yeah, I'm very good at geography. I'm very fanatic about geography.
yeah. I mean, if you ever visit, you don't have to look at the maps anymore. I'll be happy to show you around.
Yes, please. I would love to see as many places as
Yeah.
possible. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure that you when we start, because I don't know what's the deadline in Germany, that they, okay, you said end of August, right?
End of
That's what
August,
they're
yes,
predicting.
correct. Yes, August
Right. So
31st.
here, yeah, so here they're saying that by the end of April, they'll try to ease it down. So some markets in some capacity would be able to open. So we're thinking by that time, in not full capacity, by that time that we'll start producing some content, not to a general audience per se, but we are working on that. So coming back to you, so the rotation, right? We have ever since we talked about having the show, I've watched probably about 5 or 6 of your matches, and they're absolutely amazing. How did you? One of the questions that people might have is, how did you come up with the rotation? What was your process behind the name?
So I started in 2011 with training wrestling. Unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
like a couple of months later, I injured my hand while like I torn the discus in my hand while carrying a cage
Mm-hmm.
for WXW. And like
Okay.
right after I recovered from this major injury, I had my debut,
Mm-hmm.
and we did not have a name for myself. Like if you're interesting, usually, or I mean, back then, now it's more common to
Mm-hmm.
use like your shoot name, but back then it was like, hey, do you have a cool name for yourself? And absolutely not. No, sorry. But a couple of
Mm-hmm.
weeks ago at my parkour park, somebody called me rotation because I can front flip so fast. And he said he had
Yeah.
never seen somebody flipping that fast, so he just called me rotation. And I said, well, that's actually a pretty cool ring name. Let's stick with that. And ever since then, so
Mm-hmm.
for now, it's like more than 8 years or 8 years approximately. I'm
Mm-hmm.
the rotation. I'm wrestling as the rotation, and I'm having fun with that. Yeah. So this is the story of the name. It's just because of my parkour background, and I can rotate really fast. That's why the rotation. And I think it's a pretty cool nickname or ring name.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it has a certain ring to it. With us, I would say we are not that we're not there yet in terms of like having great creative names, aside from having
No,
Dr. Death. That's
everyone's
he's
creative. I'm pretty sure that you are creative. So
Yeah, that well, trying to
things
run a company through a podcast during the quarantine seems creative enough, right?
that's true. Especially when you think that no other one is doing it at the moment, a live podcast, and we are connecting two
Yeah,
continents. That's a big
yeah.
accomplishment.
It is, it is. And before I started this podcast, it just started as a fun element between me and my friend, who's also so we both started wrestling at the same time about 6 7 years ago. And unfortunately, I'll come to you with that question too. In Pakistan, in Karachi, there are no wrestling opportunities. Like there is zero, none. Like right now, there are about few companies working in Pakistan that you can join. For example, there is us, there is another company here, there is another company in Lahore. But back then, there was nothing. So we had to literally create something of our own. So I would ask you, how is the wrestling scene in Germany? Is it pretty big like it is in US or Japan?
So I'm fortunate that I started like almost 10 years ago because I've seen like wrestling in Germany being from the one of the
Mm-hmm.
lowest points up to one of the
Mm-hmm.
renaissance like we have now. It's not as big as in the States or in Japan or in the UK, but especially with WXW, we are touring around
Mm-hmm.
Germany, and we try to make it a bigger thing in Germany again, because it used to be very big in the 70s and 80s in Germany, where like Fit Finlay, for example, learned most of his crafts, and he also got to know his
Mm-hmm.
wife back then. So Germany was a major player in European wrestling in the 80s. So we with WXW, since like
Mm-hmm.
6 to 7 years, we are touring through Germany, and we try to bring wrestling back to the crowd, back to the cities. And yeah, since then, we have the oh, is the connection gone?
Okay. All right. Well, that's great. So, when you started, whenever you started wrestling about 8 years ago, was it straight to like a company or an independent scene, or did you also start with like backyard wrestling and wrestling with friends and family and stuff like that?
Yeah, I started backyard wrestling in 2007 with my friends in our kids' rooms on mattresses. And then when I had this thing called internet at my parents' place, I
Mm-hmm.
figured out about WXW. And then I went to my first show in 2010, where Paul London uh, was booked. And because of that, I had to go there, because Paul London was used to be my very first favorite
Mm-hmm.
in wrestling. So yeah, I went to WXW, had my very first wrestling show, and was just blown away. And yeah, then as soon as I turned 16, I started joining their previous school, the Westside Dojo, and this is how my pro wrestling journey started. But yeah, I, I, you have my utmost respect for starting a scene from the ground up, because I think that's different than having
Mm-hmm.
somebody teaching you all the things. Because WXW style or German wrestling style is very much influenced by Cesaro,
Mm-hmm.
by Fit Finlay, and if I have to name a third one, it must be, so we have Cesaro, Fit Finlay's
Famous.
influence, and maybe let's say Walter from NXT UK. He's a good
Mm-hmm.
role model for us.
Okay. Right. Well, that's great. I mean, I we did this. I mean, I just discussed this in the last episode that I did on the podcast. That when we started as kids, like back then when we were like 3, 4 years old. And I used to wrestle with my brother, with my friends, and we dislocated our shoulders when we were 5 years old. My brother kicked me, and I went flying and broke my knee and stuff like that. So we did all that kind of crazy stuff. um, you know what they say in WWE when they promote themselves, and they at the end of that they have this stinger that says "Don't try this at home," and that's one
Yeah,
of the things that bugs. I mean, if people are not trying it at home, then you're not getting your future generation of wrestlers. That's how
yeah,
people are made.
I definitely support this, because like Will Ospreay, for example, is a well-known backyard wrestler. All
Yeah.
the Australian scene has lots of former backyarders. I think, yeah, if you start young, or if you start
Yeah.
with backyarding, it kind of, you learn something
Hmm.
from the ground up, and you also lose the fear of taking weird bumps, because when you are young, you don't care about bumps, because your body is like the best crash pad in the
Yeah.
world. Nothing can happen to your body when you're young, but when you're like in the mid 20s or 30s, you think
Hmm.
about a weird bump twice or maybe three times. But when you're young, you just do it. You don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah, when we were young, because there's technically not that much fear in terms of like when I'm gonna take a bump, or when I'm gonna do a choke slam on somebody, or when I'm gonna take a choke slam or something like that. It's gonna hurt my back. You're not thinking like that, and plus you're wrestling on a mattress in your parents' basement or something like that. And at that time, we used to do like all the kinds of like swanton and everything. So when when you started as in terms of wrestling, what was the what were the first few hurdles that you came across? Was it the training? Was it the part of the business someplace? Was it the entertainment basis that you thought that okay, because I remember when Kurt Angle started, he took the first bump and he basically quit, and then people had to bring him on. That said, no, this is just starting. It's just bumps. So at your starting point, did you come across any hurdles?
Mm, mm, at the very beginning, no. But
Mm-hmm.
as I mentioned earlier, I torn my discus while carrying the cage of death. That was like the
Mm-hmm.
first major injury I've had. But yeah, during my career, I have been unfortunate with some injuries. But in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, I think I was just way too excited to get the chance to
Mm-hmm.
become a professional wrestler. That was more my mindset. So I
Mm-hmm.
I think they hurt me a lot, and it hurt a lot. But I never had the intention of quitting or something like this, because this is what I always wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I just enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the few things about wrestling where it's so weird, where you're hurting and it's actually you're enjoying it at that moment because when you get hurt and in one of those, especially one of those matches when you're actually bleeding and in you're bleeding outside, you know you're bleeding, you're hurt, you probably hurt yourself bad, but then you're thinking, dude, I'm bleeding, I can just like make an angle out of this, and I can stuff
Yeah,
because what Becky Lynch basically got over with that one punch that she got from Ronda, I think, and that's where she took off, and
yeah.
so that's how it is. I mean, it's really weird in the wrestling community, and you can just beat each other's ass. You can be the best villains on the screen, but you could be best friends off screen. So, do you have anybody that in WXW that you particularly enjoyed working with?
In WXW, I'm fortunate that I enjoy working with everyone because we have such a talented roster.
Mm-hmm.
That no matter who are you going to square off with, you know that you will have
Mm-hmm.
a good match or at least a good chemistry. Because yeah, we are touring and we see each other
Mm-hmm.
literally every weekend, and it's pretty much the thing that you just do
Mm-hmm.
stuff with friends, kind of, as far as you can
Mm-hmm.
consider this in wrestling, that you facing off with friends and you know what he's doing and you know his weaknesses and his strengths. So that yeah, no matter who you're facing in WCW, you know that you will have a good match because that's
Mm-hmm.
how it is in a major company. When you're outside of WCW in smaller promotions or in foreign countries, and you're working with people who don't have the privilege to wrestle every weekend or train
Mm-hmm.
at such a high standard in WXW,
Mm-hmm.
then you see the differences, like by any means, that you definitely see the difference between WXW roster worker and non WXW worker. But I mean, we try to improve each and every one. So the better wrestling gets in Europe, or the better the wrestler get, the better the product in the end gets. And I think you just have to enjoy
Yeah.
working with everyone and every style
Mm-hmm.
of wrestling. Yeah, but in WXW,
Yeah.
back to the question, I enjoy working with everyone there.
Okay. Well, that's I think one of the few things that not a lot of wrestlers in the industry has. I mean, there are very few people who are comfortable working with almost everybody, but then there are those who are not comfortable working with a certain people. Either they don't like them, or they think they're gonna hurt them intentionally, or they just don't want to put them over, as we call it in the wrestling terms. So, did you
That's
come across anything in your career so far where where some would come up to you and they would say, I'm not working with this dude. I'm not putting him over or something like that. Did anything happen like that?
no, I have never experienced this. No,
Mm,
no, never. Like I always had people who were willing to work. Sometimes you have this
mm,
when you have fly-ins from like at major events from WCW, when you have fly-ins from Mexico, from Japan, and they are tired,
mm.
then you can't find them the whole day because they are just sleeping somewhere. But
Yeah.
usually you just get by with them very easy and very good.
Mm,
So I just had very dedicated and supportive workers I've worked with.
that's
Even
great.
even
I mean, again, one of the few things that yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
sorry, yeah, even when I was in Mexico, because in 2015 I
Mm-hmm.
was touring in Mexico, um, and even there
Mm-hmm.
with the language barriers, I just had very supportive coworkers, and they just helped me along, and we always had tons of fun there. So yeah, I can't say anything bad about my fellow coworkers or wrestlers I've worked with so far because everyone has been very
Mm-hmm.
cooperative and very
Mm-hmm.
helpful. So yeah, just big thumb for all my opponents I've ever had so far.
Great. So with that being said, where do you see yourself going in the next 5 years in your wrestling career?
Mm, hopefully to Pakistan one day. Um,
Oh, that's given. That's for sure, dude. You're definitely coming. If by any chance we become friends after this, I'll support with everything what you need coming to Pakistan. We'll be honored to have you, someone as talented as you, working with us someday in the future, definitely. But in terms of like when I asked this question to the people we had before, their answer was always, yeah, we're gonna to NXT or WWE. So do you have any plans going to NXT?
mm, no, not too much because I think I have the same opinion as Walter. Because I
Mm-hmm.
don't, or I can't imagine myself living in the States. I don't know. It's
Mm-hmm.
just I really like Germany, and I really like being with WXW at the moment. It's so much fun, and
Mm-hmm.
it's so. I mean, the money is not great, but I mean, I do what I love for a living, which is I think the biggest fortune you can have in life. Um,
Yeah.
no, I'm very very happy at the moment. I maybe I want to work and live in Japan for a while, or maybe I want to go back to Mexico. These are like two of my goals which I want to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Like Japan is very very high on my list. AEW, but then not full time, and I don't want to move to the States. But like, I would really like to work with AEW because it's a promotion from workers for workers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the Young Bucks, Cody. They. Oh, by the way, WWE got mentioned in the latest Being the Elite episode. Matt Jackson mentioned WXW
Mm-hmm.
in. I don't know if you're watching Being the Elite, but they were mentioning WXW. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, I think I would like to work for the AEW one day. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, as I said before, Japan and back to Mexico are two of my major goals. And yeah, so far I just want to push WXW and thrive with WXW, and we want to get
Mm-hmm.
pro wrestling in Germany back to the peak again.
That's a very good mindset because uh, a lot of people don't have that. Some people think, and it's not in wrestling. I guess it's in general terms where you do your basic stuff, and then people are just texting me on WhatsApp. They're very excited about you. Uh, when we do something in basic stuff, like you build your foundation in education or in wrestling or whatever it is that you're doing, and then all of a sudden at some point of their career where they can actually make an impact, they would be like, all right, I'm off to, learning in China. I'm off to like US. I'm going to NXT or stuff like that, where you can stay in your own country and make another, not another WWE per se. That's a bit redundant because it took like a decade for them to build it.
Yeah,
But like make your own things in your own country so that other people can enjoy instead of you abandoning it. And that's one of the reasons why I never said personally. I'm not much of a that talented myself. I did a few matches, about probably about 40-45 matches. Um, but people ask me, would you ever consider? I said no, because I want to build an empire in Pakistan, so the people of Pakistan can also cheer for something.
yeah,
That's one of the things. Yeah,
that's one of the things you have to respect the most, right? Always
yeah,
going back to the roots and trying to get further in your on your own, not joining something which is already built up. Because building up your own is like
hmm,
you can be your own architect, which is very cool.
exactly. Hmm. We have Alam Mansoor on our live feed. He says we want you in Pakistan rotation. So
Uh,
we already got people rooting for you.
yeah, I hope that we can figure something out in the future that will be grand. Thank you, I appreciate that, and I hope that we'll see us one day.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned a lot about Mexico. Which company you were working with in Mexico?
I was mostly because we WXW and DTU Desastre Total Ultra Violento. We had a talent exchange. I
Hmm.
went there in summer 2015, and in early 2016 we got one of their guys. So I was mostly touring with DTU,
Hmm.
but I was also working shows for Lucha Libre Boom. I was working two AAA
Hmm.
shows and some town shows in some Mexican cities. But like, yeah, DTU was major promotion, but that I got the chance to work for Triple A, and with Triple A was
Mm-hmm.
like one of the coolest things ever.
Triple A is huge, man. I mean, WXW is huge. I mean, I've seen your work and I've seen other people's work. It's huge in Germany. I think Triple A is also huge. A lot of good people work there. Mysterio was there. Del Rio was there. So by the time you were there, did you get to meet anybody from any bigger leagues in WWE, or did you get to work with anybody who was there who was also coming in from like any bigger promotions?
Um, Fun little story. At my very first show, like a couple of days after I've landed in Mexico City, I was attending my very first show at Lucha Libre Boom in Arena Lopez Mateo. And I didn't speak a word Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know any of them. And
Yeah.
suddenly somebody tipped me on the shoulder. I turned around, and it was Super Crazy. And Super Crazy was giving a seminar in WXW like a couple of months earlier. And
Wow.
he remembered me, and he said, "Amigo de Alemania, ¿cómo estás?" Like, "Hey, friend from Germany, how are you? Good to see you again. Welcome to Mexico." And that was like one of the greatest things in my wrestling career ever, because Super Crazy is a big name, and I love the matches from Super Crazy in Noah in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like a moment I will never forget, because it was just super cool, super down to earth from Super Crazy, and he gave me he helped me out a lot. And yeah, for example, I met Super Crazy there. I met the original Sin Cara, Mysticis
Oh
was his
yeah,
name.
he's been replaced 3 times now in WWE, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
yeah, like a lot of times.
Yeah.
I met him at my first Triple A show. I met Drago, I met Jack Evans and Angelico. Um, like I met a lot of cool people there, and or Negro Casas. I got the chance to train with Negro Casas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Fun fact: Negro Casas is the uncle of Kuma King, who I was working at the WXW 16 Karat Gold weekend on night one. But I
Nice.
didn't
That's
know
great,
that.
man.
Yeah, but I didn't know that Nico Casas was his nephew. But yeah, I was just working with
Yeah.
somebody who I was training with his uncle. It was pretty cool.
Isn't Angelico the one that's in AEW right now?
Yes, Jack Evans and Angelico are both in AEW. And
Yeah. Both very talented, to be honest. With their matches with the best friends, with I think Brett, and I'm forgetting the other guy's name. I used to love him in um, Chikara Pro
do you
Wrestling,
mean
where
Chuck
he used
Taylor?
to do the Chuck
Chuck Taylor.
Taylor.
Yes.
Man, when he messed up his knee doing the suicide dive, it was just one of the painful things that I've witnessed in wrestling. Do you remember he used to do that slow motion grenade thing in Chikara? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
One of
The
the best highlights of my
yeah,
early days in wrestling.
yeah. Chikara's great. I've met Chuck Taylor in WXW in 2012 or 2013. He's also a very funny guy, very cool guy to be around.
So, what would you say is your craziest wrestling related story? Like, what's the craziest thing that has happened to you?
That my very, very, very first match. There
Hmm.
was It was on a convention, and in the
Hmm.
crowd was none other than Rowdy Roddy Piper. So, like,
Really?
yes, he was there as a guest because of the like a movie convention, and he was
Yeah.
backstage with us. And it was my very first match. I was super nervous, and he
Hmm.
gave me advices. He was super nice, gave me super nice words. He was just like the coolest guy ever. Super nice.
Hmm.
That was like crazy. Like a WWE Hall of Famer, witnessing the very first match is just something surreal.
See, that's one of the things that people in Pakistan are missing out, especially because, as I mentioned before, there are no opportunities for wrestlers. There is no wrestling to begin with. Everybody's so hung up on cricket. Like, it's not even the national sports of this country. The national sports of this country is hockey, and nobody gives a crap about hockey. They don't even know who plays hockey in Pakistan. So it's all cricket and stuff like that. So wrestling was nowhere until we formed it.
No, and no
I
offense.
would
Sorry,
say.
no offense to the people of Pakistan. I think cricket is very boring. Sorry. Same with baseball.
It's I have the same thoughts about cricket. We were so mad about a few years ago when we were trying to establish a company, and we were trying to do all this stuff, and we weren't getting any support from anybody. Even our friends were laughing at our faces. So at that time, me and my two other friends, we sat on a porch on a road, and traffic was passing by, and I cut what appeared and what evidently made out to be a game changing promo. We did that, and it was very candid. I did like 5 minutes promo where I ditched cricket so hard that it went so viral because I was ditching cricket so hard. And that basically became it. And we got so many people tagging so many people that it actually got us people who were ready to work with us. And that's how we got this thing rolling. Because we ditched cricket. That's how my first promo ever was.
Nice. Very cool. I mean, the
Yeah.
most popular sport in Germany is football. Um,
Hmm.
I like watching football. It's cool, but I would never do to for a wrestling promo. But I would might consider to say something bad about cricket when I'm in Pakistan,
Hmm.
because same with baseball,
Oh,
it's just
you
boring.
Oh, dude, you should never. I mean, people would they're so crazy over cricket in this country. You don't even have any idea. They worship cricketers here in this country. Same in India, in Pakistan. India and Pakistan, basically the two countries that are just mad over cricket for apparently for their love of it. I don't know what the appeal is in it. The true entertainment lies within wrestling, and I think it's safe to say that people don't understand it all that much. But when we talk about the craziest things happening in wrestling world, um, I don't have that many crazy stories. But one thing I'll tell you, and also the people who are watching us live right now, I actually got to talk to Randy Orton.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah,
How was he?
very nice, very down to earth. He was basically looking up something online. I cannot name what he was looking for. But when he bought it online, I worked in e-commerce for about 12 years now. My side business is e-commerce. I'm mainly looking after wrestling and everything, but I run an e-commerce company in Karachi. So he bought something from one of my clients, and at that time my client used to do a verification call to every person who's ordering, right? So I got this order, and it says Randy Orton, and it's coming from Missouri, and we all know that he's from Missouri. And my first thought is that it's fake. My first, I cannot believe that it's Randy Orton. It's basically just fake. And I thought my client said, "Hey, have you verified this order? Is it legitimate to ship?" I said, "No, I haven't because it's fake. Let's just cancel it." And he said, "Well, why don't you give it a try? If it's fake, then we'll cancel it, but give it a try." And I called, and it was actually him. And he answered, and he's like, "Yeah, it's me. Are you my driver from Seattle?" And I said, "No, I'm not. I'm not your driver. I'm just calling you from this website. You ordered something from us." I said, "Yeah, yeah, 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 yeah. You need proof? Yeah, I can send you my photo and everything." I said, "No, sir. I heard you. I don't really need proof anymore." So he said, "Yeah, ship me that, and I really need it for my work and stuff." So he said, at the end, he said, "I'm gonna go now, pal. Keep my number. I'm gonna go now. My van is here. I'm gonna go to Boston for SmackDown." And I got so starstruck. I couldn't even speak at that point. I was trying to speak, but the words are not coming out of my mouth at that time. So it was the craziest thing that ever happened to me.
Nice. That sounds like a great story. Very
Yeah,
cool.
and I talked to him about 4 or 5 times. After that, it was mainly because of his transactions and his orders, but we would eventually come back to wrestling. And you remember Mania before Kofi was over, and people were thinking that Kofi is going to win the title. And I called him the night before Mania. So he was working out in the gym, and I called him and I said, "Hey, you forgot to fill out this." And I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I'll do it. I'm working out right now." So I asked him, what do you think about Kofi? He said, "Yeah, everybody in the back wants him to win, so I guess he was winning." So I said, "Is this a spoiler?" So he said, "No, don't take it as a spoiler. I don't know what's gonna happen." So okay. So that was about 4 or 5 times that I talked to him. But great dude, great, awesome dude.
Nice. That's the best when when you watch people on television and they come out as being
Yeah.
nice and friendly and down to earth guys, that's always the best.
Yeah, I remember doing an RKO in a public park, and we did it on grass. We didn't have ring by that time. It's way back when we were just kids and stuff like that. We did an RKO on the grass. I broke the person's teeth who I gave the RKO to because it's on grass. There is no ring there. So that yeah. Do you have we also had a lot of fans stories in the wrestling. Do you have any crazy fan stories that you would like to tell? While working with WXW.
Yes, give me a second. So in 2016,
Mm-hmm.
we went to a town for the second time,
Mm-hmm.
and in the first time, people bought my old stickers, like my stickers I had back then, and two of
Mm-hmm.
my cats with my logos, and then they made this spinner belt. That's a rotation spinner belt,
Oh, nice.
and they made it for me and gave it to me. That's one of my favorite stories that they actually paid for something and then made something so cool because the rotation spinner belt is actually very cool and makes sense. So one of
Mm-hmm.
this or once it was not a WXW event, but I got stuck in a town and I was supposed to take the train, but I got stuck there. And then a fan saw me at the train station, and he asked
Mm-hmm.
me if I also got stuck there because the train wasn't coming. I said yes, and then he said, "Oh, do you mind if I get a taxi for us, and I'll get you home with the taxi?" I said, "Hey, do you
Mm-hmm.
know how much it will cost you? It's just too expensive. Don't do that." He said, "No, it would be my pleasure to ride in a taxi with you." So,
Mm-hmm.
okay, if you really want this, then let's do it. And so we paid a taxi, and it was like 200 euros for a taxi.
Wow.
And yeah, and yeah, he told the taxi driver to bring me home, and I just had a 45 minutes taxi ride with him. Then he got off, and then like 30
Mm-hmm.
more minutes back to my place. This is very, very cool.
Yeah, that's also one of the things in wrestling where the fans are so loyal to the performers and everything. I don't see that in any other sports, mainly because we don't really pay attention to any other sports all that much.
I,
But
I I agree to this point because I think most fans
mm-hmm.
appreciate that, or they know that we don't make much money with what we're
Mm-hmm.
doing, besides in WWE or AEW or New Japan. But here, for
Mm-hmm.
example, we don't make so much money, and they know that we are literally risking life and limb, or like
Yeah.
we put our bodies on the line to for their entertainment. And I think they really want to give us something back, which is always um, like one of the most heartwarming
Yeah.
things because we actually do this because we love this or we enjoy doing this, and then
Mm-hmm.
we
Mm-hmm.
receive such a great feedback or such a great appreciation that makes everything so special for us.
Mm-hmm. Also, one of the things that when you're training for something and you're trying to do something and you're not able to do it while you're working out and training and everything, but for some reason when you're in front of people and they're cheering you on, you get this energy and you build inside that you want to do everything all of a sudden. You want to try out everything because it's such high energy.
Yeah.
For example, I myself, I'm about, I don't know about in what is in pounds, but I'm a pretty big dude, about
Hey,
75, 77 kg.
yeah, everyone uses kilograms except the UK and the US, right? So
Yeah.
kilograms,
So
yeah.
yeah, so it's about 75, 76. But even at that weight, I did like shooting star press probably more times than I can remember now. And it only happened because we got people cheering, and it happened by accident. I wasn't planning on it. I never thought I'll do it. At max, I was thinking probably frog splash or something like that. But shooting star press was really off the table when it comes to me and my abilities and everything. So, when you don't have people, that's really bizarre and everything. And but I guess that's one of the blessings too of wrestling. So you also don't have any plans for NXT. You're working with WXW. Right now, what is your aside from wrestling, what is happening in your life? Like, are you seeing somebody? What's happening? Oh,
I
I didn't mean
mean,
to ask seeing somebody,
no,
but
no, it's all
yeah,
right. I used to study after I graduated from
mhm,
school, but uh, the priorities are more on resting at the moment, and studying takes a
yeah,
lot of time. And I want
yeah,
to finish my bachelor's degree once I'm done with wrestling, because I just don't want. I mean,
mhm,
wrestling is you have a time gap, right? And it's very short, because especially with
yeah,
my style of
yeah,
wrestling. When I'm 50, I won't be able
yeah,
to do this anymore. So I really want to take the best out of my body from now, and then
mhm,
study later and do something later on. But
mhm,
I want to use the
mhm,
valuable time I have now uh, to be the best version of the rotation as I can be. So I really want to
exactly.
improve on being the best wrestler I can possibly be than wasting time at university or studying. So I really try
Mm-hmm.
to focus on this, and then I'll see what the future brings. I mean, I never had big plans. My brother is almost done with his PhD,
Mm-hmm.
but I really don't see myself having a bachelor's degree in 5 or 10 years. I really want to keep focusing on resting, to keep grinding, and want to make WXW even bigger than we are now. So this is my thrive at the moment.
Okay, great. So unfortunately, we have very little time available in our hands for this episode. So, of just the final few, I guess, just the final few questions that I have for you. If you have the chance to work with a legend from the past who is not currently wrestling or not able to wrestle anymore, who would you pick?
Mm, does if Paul London counts, I'll take Paul London because he's now
Paul,
focusing on movies.
I didn't know he was doing movies. What kind of
Yeah,
movies
he
is doing?
also something with the tiger. I he even had a crowdfunding for one of his movie projects.
Wow,
So
really nice. I remember Paul Linden from back in the days when SmackDown had that big punch. When
yeah,
Paul Linden was in a tag team.
with Brian Kendrick.
That's the days that I remember Paul with Brian
Yeah,
Kendrick exactly.
yeah,
And the most recent I've seen of Paul London was him training Eve Marie, which I don't see where that was going, but well, glad to see that he was helping out, actually. So Paul London is one, and one wrestler who's currently active that you would like to wrestle from another company.
uh, Ricochet or Will Ospreay.
That's gonna be one hell of a match. I'll pay to watch that, to be honest.
Oh, and my friend Speedball. The week after 16 karat gold, Speedball Mike Bailey. He's from Canada. I don't know if you know him.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, he's also working a lot of DDT in Japan. I would
Hmm.
love to have a match with him because Speedball Mike Bailey is one of the best professional wrestlers on the planet. Yeah, but
Yeah,
like,
I mean Ricochet and Will Ospreay are also the great choices. I mean, I could imagine the guy named the rotation going with toe to toe with Ricochet. I have
yeah,
no idea what kind of crazy match that would have been, and I would personally pay to watch that match. But in any case, man, it was great talking to you. We're out of time for this episode. If we ever get together in the
time went by
future,
really quick.
time
The time went,
when you talk to yeah when you talk about stuff that you're actually passionate about, you don't really, it's one of the laws of time and stuff like that. But
yeah.
it was great talking to you today, and hopefully we'll be able to talk again on another episode when you have time. And hopefully we'll see you grow very much in WXW, possibly one day holding the world championship title or whatever the biggest title that there is in the company. So we're wishing you best of luck with your career.
Thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate that, and thank you for having me. It was
Thank you.
great to have the chance to talk with you and to the people of Pakistan. I mean, how many people can say
Mhm.
that they have been on a podcast in Pakistan, right? Which is very cool.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why we're doing this. That's why we're doing this. That we're trying to connect people that are in general terms or in normal days wouldn't be able to connect with each other. So I think it's a great thing. Everything has consequences or good things about it. So I think this is one of the good sides for it. So I thank you again for joining me today, and hopefully we'll see each other very soon. And from the people of Pakistan, thank you again for giving us your time, sir.
Thank you guys. See you then.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. All right, guys. So that was episode number seven, my lucky number seven episode, and I think it was one of the best episodes that I've had. We talked a lot about wrestling and stuff, and it was honestly, I'm sure it was very informative for you guys too. And hopefully, we'll see the rotation in Pakistan very soon, guys. We're working very hard for you guys to bring as much creativity in wrestling and everything to you guys. So thank you for joining us today on this podcast. Have a good day.